Hey, it's Mazzy here. This is a video on Blue-Eyed Soul Records. Great Blue-Eyed Soul albums. If you don't know what Blue-Eyed Soul means, it basically means white artists singing soul. Some people don't like the term. It started in the mid-60s for groups like the Righteous Brothers, Bobby Hatfield and Bill Medley, who did You Lost That Love and Feeling. And I hate to admit I don't have any Righteous Brothers albums. I have comps with them, and that's something I need to change. So right off the top, no Righteous Brothers albums. One album per artist that represents a great album in Blue-Eyed Soul for that particular artist. Some of these artists, their entire career was this type of music. Some it's like a one-off or a two-off, but they had that kind of sound that's kind of a combination of rhythm and blues, soul, jazz, and it really varies from artist to artist. But these are all, from my point of view, amazing artists. I'm not going to show them in order, but I'm going to just kind of go through them one by one. Right off the bat, from 1969, Dusty Springfield in Memphis. One of the best white soul records, female white soul record you'll ever hear. Wasn't a big hit when it came out, but it's become just beyond cult status. Just one of the great records of Dusty Springfield. Of course, she had hits, many hits before this, like Wishin' and Hopin', and she's a British artist that a lot of people thought were American. Just had a great, soulful, raspy singing voice, and it should be in everybody's record collection as far as I'm concerned. Sticking with the women of white soul, the late another great British artist who sang, Amy Winehouse. And this is Back to Black, another great record. Of course, there's that song, Rehab, that starts out the whole record, which, you know, pretty prophetic as it turned out. But Amy Winehouse. Now, let's just talk about Elvis Presley. I could have picked so many Elvis. Elvis comes from the gospel sound, the R&B sound, the rock and roll sound. But this is amongst my favorite albums of Elvis Presley. It's a soundtrack to King Creole. The song Crawfish on here is just an incredible song from this motion picture. One of the best movies he ever made too. So for me, I'm picking Elvis Presley's King Creole. Great white soul record. Next one is Steve Marriott, lead singer, guitar player of the Small Faces. There are but 4 small faces. He'd go on to be a member of Humble Pie with Peter Frampton after this. But Itchygook Park on here, Tin Soldier, Here Comes the Nice. That total raspy, intense sound. And what a great vocalist. Amazing vocalist. Gary Brooker. Gary Brooker, of course, was the lead singer and piano player of Procol Harum. The song that everybody knows, that's the most played song ever on British jukeboxes and radio, is Whiter Shade of Pale. That song alone would put him in this category for me. The first album they did, the original album in the UK, did not include the song. It was added to the American version. This is a later reissue, a 12-inch single of that song. But there's so many songs that Gary Brooker sang that could be in this category, but he also went to some other areas in his vocalizing that I might not necessarily put in here. So I'm just doing a one-off song-wise, although I could probably go through in every album, there's 1 or 2 songs that would be perfect in this category right here. One of my other ones is the great Eric Burton, and I picked Animal Tracks, this great album, another great British artist, mainly because of 2 songs, We Gotta Get Out of This Place and Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood. But he also does covers of The Story of Bo Diddley, Bring It On Home to Me. A lot of covers, a lot of bluesy, soulful covers that Eric Burton did early on. Even his singing on the first album, War, Eric Burton Declares War, Spill the Wine, is an incredible song. But I think for a one-off, I'm picking Animal Tracks, one of their early records on MGM Records. Now, a young 15, 16-year-old sings for the Box Tops, the great Alex Chilton. And of course, he would go on later to be a founding member of Big Star. But the song The Letter on here And then he did another song after this called Cry Like a Baby, which is incredible. He sounded like a young black singer, but he was a 15, 16-year-old singer. Incredible top 10 hit, maybe even hit #1, The Letter. Of course, it was later covered by Joe Cocker, who you'll see later in this video. On here, ironically, is a cover version of Whiter Shade of Pale as well. Now, I picked 2 greatest hits albums for this next band because, well, just because. Now, it's the Bee Gees. There's Maurice Gibb, there's Robin Gibb, and of course, there's Barry Gibb. I'm kind of going with Barry Gibb for this one, and I decided not to pick the later R&B disco stuff of Saturday Night Fever, but early songs on here, like Gotta Get a Message to You, Spicks and Specks, Massachusetts, New York Mining Disaster, and of course on here, I.O.I.O., How Can You Mend a Broken Heart, Melody Fair, Lonely Days. You know, you gotta stick all the Bee Gees in there, but you know, Robin had the really high falsetto voice a lot of times. But Maurice and Barry, I'm putting them in this category of great white soul singers. And these 2 records that came out, Bee Gees Greatest Hits Volume 1 and 2 of their pre-disco day years, are incredible records. So the Bee Gees are included in my white soul video. Blue-Eyed Soul here. And of course, Stevie Winwood. Little Stevie Winwood. No, that was Little Stevie Wonder, but the great Stevie Winwood was young and little when he sang with the Spencer Davis Group. And those songs right off the bat, Keep on Running, Give Me Some Lovin', and I'm a Man, that he sang with the Spencer Davis Group. You could just include that and stop right there. Of course, you know, the stuff he sang with Traffic, there's some songs that would be considered blue-eyed soul. And then his comeback in the 80s is definitely that. But this is the earlier, this is basically his 60s and 70s output, a best of a double United Artists comp called Winwood. Great record. It has also several songs from Blind Faith. Sea of Joy is a great, great soulful song of him. And even Dear Mr. Fantasy, as psychedelic as that song is, the vocals on that are just incredible. So Stevie Winwood would definitely be a leader in my, if I had it like just limited to 10 blue-eyed soul singers, he would absolutely be included, as would be my next person, Robert Palmer. Robert Palmer had been in a band called Vinegar Joe. This is his first solo album, I believe, on Island Records, where it's backed up by most of Little Feat. In fact, most of side 1, Sailin' Shoes, Hey Julia, Sneakin' Sally Through the Alley, are covers of songs, but I'd say this is his greatest album. Side 1 of this album is a perfect album, Sneakin' Sally Through the Alley. What a great, great record. Of course, you know, in the MTV 80 days, Simply Irresistible came did a hybrid of soul and hard rock and roll. And of course, those models, well, the lookalike models with the same lips. But I'm picking this one. I think this is a must-have for any collection and a great friggin' blue-eyed soul record. The next band that had an incredible string of hits in the late 60s, mid-60s, late 60s were the Young Rascals. Great blue-eyed soul band, especially with the lead singing of Felix Cavallari. This 1967 record, Groovin', that's a beautiful ballad. But of course, on here, they do a How Can I Be Sure, a great song, Groovin', A Place in the Sun, that was a big hit also for Little Stevie Wonder. Incredible voice, incredible vocal. I could almost pick any of their records of the Young Rascals, but I'm going to pick this one because I think this is their best overall album, although they have some great hits as well. So the Young Rascals, Groovin', Blue-Eyed Soul, Felix Cavallari. Great British artists, great singers. You know, everyone got to know him after Woodstock. Made 2 great A&M records before this live record, and that's Joe Cocker. I mean, how can you not include Joe Cocker in a list like this? This is Mad Dogs and Englishmen, a really kind of overambitious, amazing tour put together by Leon Russell for A&M Records to promote him. On the tour with him, obviously, as the band leader was Leon Russell, Chris Stanton, Don Preston, Jim Gordon, a great drummer, Bobby Torres on congas, Jim Price, Bobby Keys, and of course these great background singers, amazing backup singers of Rita Coolidge, Claudia Lanier, and others. Incredible record, one of the great live records of the time. There's also a documentary concert film of this, but Mad Dogs and the Englishman, Joe Cocker. You know, I could have picked his one of his first two records on A&M, but I think the soul of this record, the live atmosphere, adds to this great exuberance of Joe Cocker, blue-eyed soul singer extraordinaire. Now, next guy is one of the great guitar players of the 60s. What a great guitar player, but had a great voice, and of course that's Johnny Rivers. I got into Johnny Rivers because of Secret Agent Man, the theme song of Agent Man, the British show that came to America, and that song, Secret Agent Man, that theme song was stuck on the American version of that British show, and everybody loved that intro lead guitar riff of that. This is Golden Hits, and it has covers he's done like Secret Agent Man, Midnight Special, Where Have All the Flowers Gone, Memphis, Seventh Son, which was also covered by someone I almost included, Mose Allison, more of a jazz singer than a blue-eyed soul singer, but this is a great record. He has such amazing voice, great guitar playing, so Johnny Rivers, I think, had to be included in this list. An artist that you wouldn't think of as a blue-eyed soul singer, and of course I could also include his son, but I didn't this time, but that's Tim Buckley. But this is the soul album of Tim Buckley. This is the funky album he did, Greetings from LA, and side one from this is a perfect record, opening up with Move With Me, and Get On Top and Sweet Surrender. 3 songs make up side one, and they're friggin' gorgeous. They're intense, they're soulful, they're sexy, they're just kind of throbbing with sweat coming down. This is like totally wonderful blue-eyed soul singing. Highly recommended. A lot of people know him of his kind of dirgy freak folk music, but his great vocal. Of course, Jeff Buckley could be in this category too, but I'm going with Dad. I'm going with the great Tim Buckley. Greetings from LA. Love this record. So great. I think here's an artist that people only know for one song. Most people only know for one song and a couple of movies, and that's David Essex. David Essex, look at that. Blue-eyed soul, man. That is so friggin' great. Rock On is the song. The bass on that song, the production on that song. This is a greatly wonderful produced record. It's produced and arranged by Jeff Wayne, and it's a cool record. He also was in a series of movies, That'll Be the Day and Stardust, about a young rock star. That'll Be the Day. There's the Beatle connection. Ringo Starr was in, and it's a really good movie about the early days of rock and roll and starting out rock bands, very much like the early Beatle period, and bands playing at summer camps in the UK. But Rock On Here is really great. He does a cover of Turn Me Loose. David Essex, Rock On, Blue-Eyed Soul. Like I said at the top here, some of these artists have a one-off record or have, maybe a soul explosion that's away from their normal style. And I'm going to call out this as Elvis Costello. Of course, he's had records throughout his career that might considered a one-off or two-off that's soulful in nature. But Elvis Costello and the Attractions punched the clock. Obviously, it's got some great arrangements, but Every Day I Write the Book, The Greatest Thing, Shipbuilding is a gorgeous ballad of his, and TKO Boxing Day. But I'm going to include this on this Blue-Eyed Soul. Not someone you'd really consider in the category, although over the years, he's really belted it out, but has that kind of feeling. He really can keep on key. He has that intensity that I think good soul singing requires, or usually we sort of respond to when it comes to soul singing of any type, black or white. But for Blue-Eyed Soul, this book punched the clock on Columbia Records. Of course, Freedom. This collection, George Michael, Listen Without Prejudice. Of course, the song Freedom, one of the great MTV darlings, where they just had all these great supermodels of the 80s mixed in that wonderful video here. George Michael is an incredible singer. I'm not into all his music. This is a great collection that has Freedom 90s, sort of a updated mixed version of that, Praying for a Time, Something to Save, and Mother's Pride and Soul Free, but I'm including this record in my collection. I think George Michael has to be in there, even though I don't have all his records. I don't follow him completely. It's a great documentary that came out several years ago on him, and I think that will change a lot of minds. If you're not a George Michael fan, seek out that documentary, and this is a really cool record. It's got a really great feel to it. Great Blue-Eyed Soul artist. Another one who really mixes in from soul to jazz to rock and roll, and I could have picked, I have like 30 records by this guy, and he has definitely better records, but I think for the sake of this video, picking one record, I narrowed it down. I picked a live album, and that's It's Too Late to Stop Now, Van Morrison. This is a show recorded live in concert in Los Angeles and London in summer 1973. I think I saw him in 71, around 74, several times over the years into the 90s, and actually one of the later shows I saw already this year last year in 2020, just before the pandemic lockdown. And whatever you think of Van Morrison, what an incredible voice, and he's definitely got soul. He's definitely in that Blue-Eyed Soul category. This has great arrangements of his songs that just gives a little edge to him. He's got a small string section on here. So songs like Into the Mystic, I Believe to My Soul, Ain't Nothing You Can Do, which is a really good, I've Been Working, which is a great soulful, funky song. Domino, and of course he does Listen to the Lion, a really long song, St. Dominic's Preview, and a great version of Gloria, the song he did with them. But incredible live record, probably one of the best live records out there, and a great Blue-Eyed Soul singer. I couldn't do a Blue-Eyed Soul video without showing Hall & Oates. And out of all the Hall & Oates albums, I'm going with their first album, the only album, I believe, on Atlantic Records before they moved to RCA. The thing that got me into Hall & Oates was one song on here that got constant airplay in the Bay Area, and that's She's Gone. She's Gone would seal the deal for me alone for this video, for this topic. Of course, they became huge. Daryl Hall and John Oates became huge. They did everything from, just strict soul to songs like Rich Girl, the string of hits on RCA Records. I was lucky to see him once, I'm thinking around 76 or 77 at Winterland in San Francisco. But when all is said and done, I'm going for this album on Atlantic Records, Abandoned Luncheonette. Really great, and it's produced by the great Arif Mardin. So he knows something about producing soul records quite a bit. Hall & Oates. One of my all-time white soul singers comes from Texas, was in a rock band, was in the Steve Miller Band. His first album, I'd say on Atlantic, is one of my best favorite albums, with great blues, long 10, 12-minute song, Loan Me a Dime, with great guitar playing of Duane Allman. Also his hit record, his huge record, Silk Degrees, you all know, but I'm not including that. Boz Scaggs. I'm including Slow Dancer. I love this record. Some people like his first 4, 5, 6, whatever Columbia records he did that are more blues-based rock and roll, which are amazing. This was a whole different take on him. It first came out with this cover, terrible cover, but a photograph by Annie Leibovitz. This is how it originally came out. And what's really interesting about this record, it was produced by Johnny Bristol, so it's got a real sort of Philly soul sound. Kind of slicking away, not like Silk Degrees where he had Toto behind him and the Pacraro brothers. Even though that was this more popular record, I prefer this. This was the cover they changed it to after Silk Degrees. This is from a poster from a live show I went to, a black tie optional at the Oakland Paramount Theater. Much nicer cover. So they changed the cover from this to this. But it's got Slow Dancer, Angel Lady, just comes in time, great soul song, Hercules, a couple of Alan Toussaint arrangements and songs on here. But this is an incredible record with strings and horns, and just really a good sounding record. So I think this is a really good funky, soulful record of blue-eyed soul at its finest. I love Boss Skaggs, still to this day. I know he got, so huge. That Silk Degrees album was so big. Some people got turned off after him, but all that stuff, even before that, are amazing. And this is my pick for this record, for this video. Another great Southern white soul artist is Tony Joe White, and this record, Black and White, is an incredible record. Starts with Willie and Laura Mae Jones, Soul Francisco, of course I gotta like that. Talking about Frisco and San Francisco. Scratch My Back, Little Green Apples, it's got a great cover of Jimmy Webb's Wichita Lineman. Look of Love, the Hal David Baccarat song. Really good, soulful, funky record. This guy is the real deal too, in more of a southern way, almost like the Dusty in Memphis type of feel to it. But I love this record. I think this record just was reissued again. It was on Warner Brothers originally, and it's highly recommended. Anything here is highly recommended, but this is one too. Of course, we can't show and discuss Blue-Eyed Soul without talking about the great Janis Joplin. Janis Joplin was someone who, I wish we could have seen where she was going to go. Pearl was that posthumous record that came out right as she died, or right after she died, which is a great record. She left Big Brother, and Columbia took her away and did Old Cosmic Blues, which I don't think is a really good record. But I tell you, I think it all comes together. Even though Big Brother and the Holding Company is not a great, tight, funky band, something about the chemistry they had on this faux live record, Cheap Thrills, produced by John Simon with help of the recently deceased Elliot Mazer on co-production and engineering. This is the album. It has a feel of a live record sometimes because of the effects they put in and the Bill Graham introduction at the beginning. But this, her versions of Summertime, Ball and Chain, combination of the two, Piece of My Heart, another cover on this record. This is a perfect record, and there's a certain ambiance that that John Simon really stitched together out of a band he did not like the musicians when he was making this record. However, this is one of the most incredible records that's ever come out of the San Francisco scene that almost doesn't fit in the San Francisco scene, aside from this great R. Crumb cover illustration, record cover. So the great, almost like a shot from Winterland or Fillmore, great Blue-Eyed Soul. Just a couple more. One that a lot of you may not know, but if you want a great kind of funky, soulful album, you can probably see this around in used bins. And I remember that we did a big promotion on this album. It came out in 1974, and it's called Insane Asylum by Cathy McDonald. And the opening track, or it's not the opening track, but the title track, Insane Asylum, it's the last song on here. Great blues song by Willie Dixon. Her version of it just kills. It's so great. Nils Lofgren plays on guitar. Pete Sears is on it, who would later be a guitar player for the later Jefferson Starship. Ronnie Montrose plays on here. So it's kind of a rock and funky, soulful record. It's got a lot of groove to it, and it's really good. She's in that vein, like the vocals, like the screaming, soulful vocals like a Janis Joplin in a way. So highly recommended, Cathy McDonald, Insane Asylum. And lastly, I'm starting out with someone who had, who merged and did so many types of music over his career, and that's David Bowie. And of course, I'm picking Young Americans because of the song Young Americans, because of the song he co-wrote with John Lennon, Fame, Fascination on here. Incredible record. I think this is his most soulful record, although over the years, he did a lot of pop and soulful music. Of course, in his MTV years into the 80s, you could say that might be more appropriate, but I'm going with this one. I think this is more organic. If you could call Bowie organic, he's not really that, because in a way he's manufactured, but he's self-manufactured in my opinion. He creates these personas and these different takes. It's not manufactured like a record company manufacturing an artist. He does it himself, depending on his moods, depending on his influences at the time. I think this does it more than Let's Dance, which is a great record, and that's more of a dancey pop funk record, but I think funky record. But I think this is more the natural of real true soul, and of course for Blue-Eyed Soul, I'd say this is it. So that's it, Blue-Eyed Soul artists. I'm sure there's some I missed. I just kind of narrowed it down to these because these are the ones I have in my collection. There are a lot more men and women who would fit in this category that some I thought of, but I just didn't go into. So if you want to suggest your Blue-Eyed Soul artist beyond these, please do that. I really appreciate you watching. Thank you, Blue-Eyed Soul. Mazzy loves you.